All right, so now that we've looked in detail at our Canvas website and how students can use that to get going in the class, let's look at when you are registered with MyStatLab, how you go there and function there to begin learning and doing your assignments for this class. So as we look in the syllabus at this to-do list of all of our assignments for the whole semester, we begin by homework and quiz number 1 assignments on sections 1.1 through 1.3, chapter 1, that are due a week from tomorrow. And so as we go to the MyStatLab website, this is what you're trying to accomplish, and I'll be taking you there next to show you how to do that. But I do want to point out, while we have the syllabus here, that on this list of assignments, if we go down to the end of the semester, our last assignment, homework and quiz number 14, which is on the 2 sections in chapter 11, is due on Sunday, December 1st. And that's sort of right at the end of the semester. The final exam is on December 11th, 10 days later. But during that final 10 days, starting on Monday the 2nd and going through until the night before the final at midnight on the 10th of December, we have a makeup and review period. And so during those 10 days, you'll be able to do or redo any of your online homework and quiz assignments. And so I use that as a catch-all for anyone who has problems during the semester that they want to try to make up an assignment or get a better grade than they did before. What I found is that when students reach out to me and ask for an extension because their computer died or they forgot about an assignment and they want to get it done, is that they end up in a downward spiral where if I give them that extension, they're working on the previous week's material and then falling behind on the current week's material. And sometimes that just gets worse and worse. The best thing to do to try to get ahead of assignments, especially if you fall behind during a bad week, is to cut your losses on that week at the time and instead, all right, I'm going to forget about that for now, and I'm going to focus on the current assignments and try to get ahead of those due dates. Otherwise, you can just kind of be terminally behind and you can't recover. Just let that go and worry about it at the end of the semester. So to help with that, we have this makeup review period where anything that didn't go well during the semester, you'll be able to try to fix it and improve at the end of the semester. And so that will be in place instead as a substitute for any needed extensions, or additionally at the end, it's also just a good motivation to review past assignments that you didn't do well on when preparing for the final. So that's why it's a makeup period, but it's also just a review period. So since students at the end of the semester normally want to review past material to prepare for the final anyway, why not sweeten it up a little bit by making it you can also improve scores on past assignments while you're reviewing for the final at the same time? It makes it a win-win. So I want to point out that this is here. So if you have, a bad week or something, don't panic. You're going to have more than a week at the end of the semester to repair any bad spots that occurred during the semester. The best thing to do instead is just let that go, move on to the current assignments, try to get caught back up and get ahead of the due dates that are coming up in front of you. So that's the makeup and review period. And again, the date range is listed in the syllabus here. All right, so having pointed that out, how do we go to MyStatLab and learn about this material and get the work done? So as I mentioned before, it's linked to our Canvas class. So you would click on My Lab and Mastering. You'd click on this yellow button to take you over there. And when you go over there, it should put you right in the class. It may ask you to enter your username and password in the beginning, but oftentimes it doesn't because the classes are linked. So it depends on browser settings and some other stuff. But you should be able to simply log in. Once you've registered, as we talked about before, you have a username and a password, which it may or may not ask for. And then you log in and you'll see this homepage of our MyStatLab site. And you can even see up here, it says Math 142, 8111, Fall 24 in Canvas. And so on this homepage, there's some overview of things, but students usually go right over to these links on the left. And the first one I'm going to point out to you is assignments. And if I click on assignments, there is the list of all those things that were on the syllabus to-do list. So that should match this work here. The first thing being the homework and quiz number 1. And so if you go over here, you'll see homework number 1 on the 3 sections of chapter 1 and quiz number 1. And I don't spell out the sections for the quiz, but the quiz is always on the sections covered by the matching homework assignment. And you can see they're both due by September 1st at midnight, or 11:59 p.m., right before midnight. And that's a week from tomorrow. In order to do these assignments, you simply click on them and open them up and start working on them. Now, before I show you what that looks like, which I will do, let's begin with the fact that in order to do these assignments, you might actually have to learn about chapter 1 first. So most people will want to learn about chapter 1 before opening up the assignment. But you can open it up right now, even if you don't know anything about it, and just take a look. They're always available for the whole semester, and the homework problems are immediately available once you click on them. Now, how will you learn about them? Well, I've already described one hopefully helpful and obvious way. You could watch the videos that I've posted on our Canvas site covering those 3 sections. For each section, there's a video, half hour, 40 minutes, something like that, of me explaining the material. You can just start there. Usually in the sections, I have some exercises we go through at the end, but I certainly explain the concepts as I would to a normal class that was meeting face-to-face. So that might be your starting point. Maybe you want to look through the textbook. The textbook is included electronically on the website. So let's take a look at that. You see here, there's a link that says e-text contents. So if I click on that, it opens it up like chapters of the book. And so let's say you wanted to start with chapter 1. If I click on chapter 1, there's section 1, section 2, section 3. Now there's actually a section 4 here, but we're not covering that. It's optional, it's only online, and we're not doing it. That's why I didn't list it in the homework, so you don't ever have to worry about that. None of the problems based in there will show up on any of your assignments or any of your exams. So let's say you said, I'm going to start with the first section of chapter 1. Well, you can see here there's an option to watch video presentations as well. I'm going to click on the textbook first, but these are video presentations made by the publisher and by the author and other employees of the publisher to help teach you the material. And I don't know, maybe you'll like those better than my presentations. My presentations are not an assignment. These video presentations are not an assignment. They are just resources to help you learn, and you decide what works best for you. Or maybe you don't like any of the videos and you just want to read the book. Here's what it looks like. If I click on the e-text, it'll bring up the online version of our textbook, but it's in this PDF format here, it looks exactly like the pages of your textbook. If you bought the hard copy of the book and you went to page 3 and opened it up, it would look just like this. And you can navigate through the book this way. Unlike the paper version of the book, they have some embedded interactive links in the online version, like here is the video, probably the first video that they were just showing on the previous page. Probably video presentation A is probably what this link is to. But it might be that after you've read this paragraph, you say, hey, let me watch a video trying to make this clear. I can fast forward to the next page. So you can basically see the whole textbook is here. And here's what I was describing. There's lots of vocabulary in chapter 1. So you start out learning what is data, what is statistics, what's a population, a census, a sample. And then there are problems to help you discuss these ideas, give you examples. And the questions in your homework and eventually on your quiz will be based on this material. You can go directly to any page you want. Like if you had something that you had saved on page 16, you can just type in 16 and it'll take you to page 16. Oh yeah, that's what quantitative data, categorical data, that's what that's about. So that's what the textbook looks like. You can, once it's been opened, you can, again, go through and navigate via any chapter or section that you want and skip around. There's other things like you can look at flashcards. You can change the display setting if you don't like the way some things are set up. You can make bookmarks. Some students really work with this interactive textbook a lot and really enjoy the ability to go in there and save places and do stuff like that. Some people really like the videos and don't really use the textbook much at all. Now, this is our primary resource. So when in doubt, you should consult the textbook because all of our materials are based on the textbook. And so that's where there's a complete presentation and resource of all the details for this course is in this textbook. So having pointed that out, let's just take a peek at this video presentation that MyMathLab or MyStatLab is presenting to us.
Hi, I'm Marty Triola, and I'm here to talk to you today about the first topic in the book, statistical thinking. Now, because this is the very first topic in the book, I thought I would just take a minute to introduce some aspects of the course to talk.
So let's take a look. This is 19 minutes long, but there's another video, part B, and that one's also around 20 minutes long, or 16 or something, I forget. But nonetheless, this is an alternate source for videos. And if I click ahead, you can see he's using examples and talking about the topics. And so you may find this to be more helpful than my videos, less helpful than my videos, but you get them both. So it doesn't really matter. You might find one topic I do great and you're satisfied, and then a chapter later I explain something you're like, I didn't really understand that, and then you can go watch their videos and see if that's better. Of course, you can watch any resource of videos that you want. You could go to YouTube and find people explaining statistics in a way you like. You can go to Khan Academy. You have tons of learning resources. The ones that are provided to you immediately in this class are designed, hopefully, to be on target and most helpful as possible. But of course, there's a wide resource list available to you. Now, I do want to point out one of the reasons I'm going to make a pitch for my videos is that the textbook, the author, they don't know what type of technology you might be most likely to use for this class to do statistics. So they will often show people using a Texas Instrument calculator and have discussions about what it looks like when you're doing analysis on that, maybe in Excel, maybe in other programs, as well as the one that I'm recommending, StatCrunch. However, in all of my videos, I'm focusing on StatCrunch because I don't want to make it confusing by showing you 5 different ways that you may use technology to help you. I just picked one and I'm going with it. And again, it's not a requirement. So if you already have a lot of familiarity with Microsoft Excel and you want to use their statistical package, you're perfectly welcome to do so. I'm just not going to give tutorials about that. So in my videos, I have the added benefit of knowing that most of my students will be using StatCrunch. So when I go to do things and give example problems, I'm using the technology that hopefully you're going to be most familiar with. Whereas the books, videos, and the presentations in the textbook, they bounce back and forth between a lot of different technologies because they have no idea which students will be using which technologies. But nonetheless, so this is another great resource, and it's part of the package of the e-text contents that students have available once you're in the class. So having said that, let's say you learned those materials or got to start reading about it, maybe just the first section. So let's open up this first homework. Now, the first homework covers all 3 sections in chapter 1 that we're covering, but they have problems in order. So if we look at this first assignment, due a week from tomorrow, it has only 36 problems in it. It's not hugely voluminous. It's not a very, very large assignment. And the problems are in order. So that means the first third of them, or approximately, will be from section 1, then the middle ones will be from section 2, and the last ones will be from section 3. So if you just read section 1, you could go ahead and get started on the homework by starting on the first problems. Like, let's say I'll open up number 6. Let's see what a homework problem looks like. It usually opens a separate pop-up window. So you want to make sure some technology happens, like you enable pop-ups for this website in case you have a browser that's very aggressive at blocking pop-ups. I found Apple has some kind of hidden pop-up blockers that are challenging. I don't really use Apple, but students have complained about that from time to time. But nonetheless, it pops up a new window, and then you have problem number 6 in front of you. You can do the problems in any order on a homework assignment. There's no time limit. You can do some of the problems and submit answers. Let's say I chose C, I didn't read the problem, but then let's say I go to, once you've put in an answer, you can immediately check and see if you're right or not. Oops, I did not guess correctly. Let's try A, see if I get lucky. Now, because this is multiple choice and there's only a few of them, they're going to give you a couple tries, and I didn't get it right. So then I have the ability to move to the next question, or I could do a similar question. if I'm working on this assignment, I want to do a similar question because I got it wrong. And what it'll do is it'll give you a fresh version of the same type of problem, but they'll change the numbers a little bit and you can try again. Once you get this right, so you could just keep guessing until you guess it right. Hey, look at that. Nice. So once you get a problem right, you then get the credit for that problem. So this is a key element of how homeworks are set up for you. Homework assignments, the problems are infinitely repeatable until you get the credit, and then you move on. So that's a type of learning called mastery learning, where it's perfectly fine if you make mistakes and you don't understand what you're doing when you first get started on the homework, because you can just keep working on it until you understand. Now, some students really want to fight hard not to learn this material and will just go to some of these multiple choice and guess them until they get correct. Well, the problem is that's going to make it so that you're getting some small amount of homework credit without knowing what you're doing, and then that's going to hurt you on the quizzes, and that's going to kill you on the midterms and the statistics project. So it's not a long-term successful approach. However, it's very important to me having this mastery learning in place for students, because I don't want you to worry when you start working on the homework that you have to have all of the knowledge clear. This is not a test. This is not even a quiz. It's a completely repeatable assignment. All the problems are infinitely repeatable. And for that reason, you can go there even if you're still confused about some things. And the idea is this is to help you practice the ideas and the concepts and clarify and develop skill on how to do problems before you're graded on assignments where you don't get that forgiveness built into the assignment, like a quiz or an exam. So for example, let's say on this one, I didn't want to just guess, but I was still confused. I could click on Get More Help. Now, in this case, because there's no calculations to do, there's no way that it could give me an example and do it for me. This is just vocabulary. But later on, when we're like making histograms or calculating values for things like the average value or things like that, then if I click on Get More Help, it'll have an option like View an Example, in which it'll do a similar problem for you step by step, so you can get the idea of what you're supposed to do the problem correctly, and then try it again yourself. There is an ability to link out to the textbook, and then it would send you to this section. You can see from the problem, the label of the problem shows you which section it's from. This is question number 7 on our assignment, but this is problem 1.1.29. That means it comes from chapter 1, section 1, and it's problem 29 in the test bank of problems. And that way you can see, oh, this is from chapter 1, section 1. I need to study that some more. And you could open up that text, that part of the textbook from here. Let's see if it really has an animation. Nice. So this is another tool. Let's see what it has. Critical thinking.
This flowchart summarizes key elements to be used for statistical thinking and
Nice. So
critical thinking.
they had a.
It's important to
I
constantly use common sense and to not become blinded by mindlessly jumping into an application of some statistical method.
I think I'll
common sense isn't.
Okay. Was able to shut them up. It is an important part of any video to be able to shut them up. All right. So in this way, you get help while you're doing your homework. You get infinite repeatability of individual problems. You get an ability to check your answers right away, because maybe you think you have the right idea, but you can find out quickly whether you do or not. Oh, and they'll even try to describe the idea of what you got wrong, and then let you try again. And let's say you even got it right. Like I could go back to problem 6 so that I got it right. But let's say I kind of guessed and I'm worried about it. I can ask for a similar question again, and I can practice some more. So the idea of the homework assignments is that you have a small amount of problems from each section, maybe a dozen or something like that, but they're individually infinitely repeatable. They give you help options while you're doing the problems that explain how to do it, maybe even show an example of how to do it, maybe have an animation or a link to a video to explain the ideas of the problem, so that when you go here, you're developing clarity, you're strengthening your understanding, and you're practicing the skills that you need to do to be able to do the problems yourself successfully. My ultimate suggestion is that every student get 100% on every homework because they're infinitely repeatable and they affect your grade. So why wouldn't you just repeat these problems until the score is perfect? Now, of course, it may be that that's hard to do and takes extra time, but the sooner you start on one of these, the sooner you'll know how much time you need to get 100%. Maybe you can do it in a couple of days and you're able to finish early and start working on the next assignment and have more time on that in case it's harder. Obviously, they're going to be a little bit easier in the beginning and get a little harder later in the semester. So it's a good habit to try to imagine getting to these early, maybe like right after you've watched a video or read the material, you just jump right into the questions and see what they're like. Now, you can see that I got this credit for number 6 here, so I can go back to my assignment list with that assignment unfinished. And what you'll see is I've already developed some credit for this assignment. And so you can leave a homework assignment and come back to it a day later, 2 days later. It's a work in progress, and you just keep raising your score as you get more and more of the problems correct, hopefully working toward 100%. And the idea is to get that done by the due date at midnight, or hopefully even as far ahead of that due date as possible. Now, how is that different from a quiz? The quiz is on the same material, and it has the same kinds of problems. But on a quiz, we're looking to see if during all of that practice and reading and watching videos, you've figured out the material well enough so that you can do the problems yourself. So how is a quiz different? How is it you have to do things more on your own? Let's open it up. So first of all, the quiz has a time limit. So you can't do a quiz like a 3-day research project. You can't look at a problem in the quiz and then go read the book to try to figure out how to do it. You could do that on the homework assignments. You could open up the homework assignment before you've even watched any videos or read the book and just look at what the problems are like, maybe to motivate you when you go back and read the book to see what you're trying to learn about. Because opening up a homework doesn't start a clock. There's no time limit on a homework assignment. You can do the problems you like and come back to problems you don't like later, 3 days later. The only time limit on a homework is the due date. Whereas a quiz has a time limit of 1 hour. The quiz will basically typically have 4 problems from each section covered. So this first quiz covers 3 sections of chapter 1, and it has 12 questions. 4 of them will be from section 1, 4 of them will be from section 2, and 4 of them will be from section 3. On top of that, these problems are randomly chosen by the computer. I do not construct this quiz. The computer for each student will just randomly go and choose 4 problems from each section. So you do know all 3 sections are covered, but it will randomly choose 4 problems from each section to create this quiz once you click on this, and then it'll give you 60 minutes to do them. So let's say I started. The problems will look basically just like the homework problems did, but now there's a little clock running down here. And all of the little help options are gone. No longer will it help you do the problem by showing you what to do, because now you're supposed to be doing the problem on your own. When you put in an answer for a problem, it will no longer tell you immediately whether your answer is right or wrong for this problem. It will not let you repeat this problem by itself. All you can do is give it your answer and move to a different problem. It will mark off that the problem is done, and you can skip around if you like, oh, let me come back to this later. I'm worried about my hour. You can skip around and do the problems in any order you want and submit your answers. And as you submit them, oops. All right, yeah, there we go. As you submit them, it'll fill in these little bubbles here so you can see which ones you need to come back to that you didn't complete, for example. So you can do them in any order you want. You've got these 12 problems. You can read them over, but you've got this clock running. And then at some point, you have to submit the quiz, or if the clock runs out, then it'll submit it for you, and you'll get whatever credit you were able to produce at that time. Or you can say, I'm done and I want to submit now. I don't want to wait for the clock to run out. I got a half hour left. I want to see how I did. When you submit the quiz, in this case, if you had any unanswered questions, it'll give you a warning. So if you were skipping around and you forgot to go back and do one, it'll warn you and can say, oh, cancel my submission. I want to go back. I forgot to do one. Or you can say, no, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to submit it. Once you submit the quiz, hey, I got 2 of those right. Nice. Once you submit the quiz, it'll immediately show you what you got right, what you got wrong. You can review the problems. Look at the ones you got wrong. When you review a problem that you got wrong, it'll show you what you answered with a red X, and it'll show you what the correct answer should have been. So that you can see immediately what was your score on the quiz, how did you do, what was right, and what the correct answer should have been when it was wrong. Now, if I go back to the main page, what you'll see is that on this quiz, I can now see a score from my quiz. Those 2 I got right, I got almost 17%. Now, on the quizzes, you get 2 attempts. So, like the homeworks, you can repeat a quiz. On the homeworks, you could repeat each problem as many times as you wanted until you got credit. Well, on a quiz, you don't get to repeat individual problems. You can just repeat a whole quiz. When you repeat a quiz, you just click on it again, and it says you've already used one of your 2 attempts. You're allowed 2 attempts right out the gate. So you could say, oh, the first time didn't go well. I reviewed the problems I got wrong. I studied some more, figured out what I was doing wrong. I want to try again and see if I can do better now. When you do it and you start it, you will get a fresh 12 problems. So since the 12 problems were chosen randomly, on another attempt at the quiz, you're going to get 12 new randomly chosen problems. So they won't be exactly like the problems you had on your first try on the quiz, but again, it'll be 4 problems from each section, so they should look pretty familiar, and you'll get another try. When you do a quiz twice, the computer automatically just takes whichever score was better. So you can never make your score worse by using another try. You're only given a chance to improve it, with hopefully the idea that the reason you might improve it is that you looked at what the problems you got wrong on the first try. Maybe you go back to the infinite practice problems that are like the ones that you got wrong and then practice them some more, and then come back and try the quiz again and hopefully do better. And as another reminder, let's say you've used both of your attempts on your quiz and it still didn't go that well. Well, it's time to move on to the next assignments. However, there'll be a one last shot opportunity during the makeup review period at the end of the semester that's listed in the syllabus that I mentioned earlier, in which you can redo quizzes again. So if you did have a quiz or 2 that had really bad scores, but you've moved on in the class and you're doing much better, or you're reviewing for the final and you want to try to redo them and improve those scores, you'll be able to do that during the makeup review period as well. So this is how the assignments work. You have videos and the textbook to learn about the material. Then you go try to do homework. The homework, you don't have to have perfect clarity. The problems are infinitely repeatable. They give you help options to help you if you're making mistakes. And don't forget, there's like 50 hours a week of free tutors. There's help from me. There's all sorts of ways that you can get help if you're struggling on a particular topic or on a particular assignment. But you can work all of that out in the homework because the problems are infinitely repeatable, no time limit. And once you get them done right and you understand, you just get the credit and you move on. Then you go to the quiz. Now, if you really did successfully on the homework assignment because you learned how to do all the problems successfully, then the quiz will probably be a good score on the first try. And I would honestly say more than half the students, if they did well on the homework, they do well on the quiz and they just move on and they don't even use their second attempt. Like if you get a 95 on the quiz, you may not want to bother to try to do it again to make that into 100. It's up to you. Once you're on it, got an A on a quiz, it's kind of like, all right, do I really want to do that again? Maybe you just want more practice, who knows? But it's up to you. But if you don't do well on that first try, then you can really say, all right, well, what did I get wrong? Or didn't I do problems like that on the homework? Let me see what I'm doing wrong. Oh, I forgot. I got to do this. Or, oh, I guess I didn't understand that as clearly as I thought. So I'm going to go back, read the book, do some more homework practice problems because you can repeat those even after you've done them. And then come back and try the quiz again, see if you can improve your score. In this way, you want to develop self-awareness of how well you're learning the material. You want to practice the material with self-awareness. And then when you feel ready and the homework score is good, hopefully the quiz will be a good reflection that you learn the material well. But there's a little forgiveness there because you're going to get another try for free as long as you do it before the due date. And then you can review what went wrong on your first try and try to improve on that. And this is how we'll go through the semester. You'll do this up through chapter 4. And then after the assignments on chapter 4, you'll have a midterm on chapters 1 through 4. The midterm will be taken face-to-face on campus with the class, but it will be this assignment on MyStatLab. You'll click on it, open it up, and you'll do it together with us in class. And again, I don't make the midterm. The computer randomly chooses problems from all the sections we covered in chapters 1 through 4 and puts them together in an assignment. Because they're chosen randomly by the computer, there's a chance they pick some harder ones as opposed to easier ones. I don't know. But for that very reason, the grades on the exams are based on a curve, as I mentioned, described in the syllabus, so that if it's a harder test made by the computer, the scores go down a little bit, but so does the average. And so the grades aren't usually affected by if the test is a little harder or a little easier, randomly chosen by the computer. And this is how you access your stuff online and how you learn about the material and go through the assignments. That's what I wanted to finish with today, was showing how to access the learning resources, how to access your assignments in MyStatLab once you're registered, and how to get going in the class. Are there any questions before we close out today? Anything you want to ask about, anything you want me to show you on the website while I've got it open here about the homeworks, quizzes, or learning resources? Anything at all? Questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, which I will end up posting these recordings on our homepage later.